is to see the chain reaction of it, right?
Yeah.
The thing is that when you die down as a generation change, right, and we live through the life cycle as it is, right? History repeats, but it repeats in a different way.
Yeah.
We just dress differently, right? We just do different modern shit. But it's the same, right? You gotta feel that how you want to build it. That's the sense. Like, you're the future. Our kids are the future.
Yeah.
How are we gonna build that, right? Because this is Facebook. Yeah, he's like what, 30 years old. These are the future people. They're gonna grow up, right? They're gonna whittle down. They're gonna die. Who's the next one? Right? You gotta, to be able to change the world, to change the community, you gotta change the atmosphere, how they outlook. And if you're able to build a positive environment, able to build that organization to give you that inspiration that this is ours, right? They're gonna pass down for the future. People are gonna recognize, right? It's not we're on the internet, right? News travel quick. So like, I feel like that it really depends on the ways you do it, right? It's just, you're right on like these organizations coming in, like changing the whole thing, making it corporate. It sucks because we started the Kappas, Dog Chant. We started the memes. It was our generation, not them. They didn't understand it. They don't understand our lingo. You know, and
they don't get our nomenclature.
Yeah, they don't understand it, right?
Yeah,
because
that's like the whole thing with like Article 13, crap like that. It's people are like freaking scared to death because they don't understand what's going on. Like, what I'm doing on the internet is like completely foreign to my parents. Like, they don't know. Like, they're like, memes. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, how does that work? Like, if I show them a meme, they're like, what the fuck? Like,
they understand.
I don't understand. Like, it's you gotta grow up with it to like even understand what's going on. And like shit like governments and corporations, shit like that. Sadly, they've got like all the power, and they're fucking scared to death about what's going to happen because they don't know. They don't know what's going on, and like everyone's connected to each other, and well, they gotta do something because it's getting out of their control, and like government needs control somehow. So now you see all this weird kind of shit coming up, like internet filters and all that kind of weird shit.
How are we gonna change that? You know what I mean? That's like, that's our mindsets.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, you know, like it's happening now. Yeah, it's always happening.
I see it as like, it's kind of funny because I think about like A Bug's Life, and they talk like you have like the ants and the grasshoppers. We're the ants, and we just have to keep remembering that we are the ants. We're the ones that are actually in power. We're the ones that have power, not them. Because why? Because we have the numbers, and no matter what they do, it's like it's a battle kind of like between quality and quantity, and while there's certain times where quality is good, for us, quantity is what's better, because numbers is what pushes this industry and any industry. It's the numbers, and the people that have the power, the consumers, not the producers. They make money because this is what we want. But what determines if their business continues or dies or evolves is based on what we want to do, not what they want to do. They have to follow what we say, not the other way around. And they work really hard, repeatedly, because they have the money, on making sure that we believe that it's them that have the power. They make us believe that they're the ones that can switch our heads and stuff. And it's not true. That's it's just false. It's just fake, you know? It's like, I think a perfect example in our society was Gandhi. It's like, Gandhi was like, this is not right. I'm going to do this. And people followed him. Why did he win? Because it was numbers. It's like, you could think about like, oh, they'll bring the army on us. I'm like, no, they're not. I'm like, they could bring the army on us, but I can guarantee you that every soldier that's there is not going to shoot their wife and kids, and they're not going to shoot their mothers and uncles and brothers. They're not going to do it, because you have to be somebody completely different to do that. And most of them are not like that, you know? So they're not going to do it. So what power do they really have? None, other than the power of intimidation. And us, as this community in esports, forget esports, this community in video games, like, we're the ones that have the power, and we have to keep remembering that. And you know, we're always going to have modifications, and things are going to evolve in terms of what's the best way of making this grow to leave it as a legacy for the future. For the future, like you said, you know, this is something that we're building for our children. And yeah, I was thinking like just a moment ago, like I would love to see the day where a kid tells his parent, I don't want to do esports. I want to be a mechanic. Because when that happens, that's when you know that we made it. Yikes, that's when you know that we made it.
Yeah.
Because like celebrities, most of the kids don't want to be celebrities. Some of them do, but not most of them, because they're like, I don't have a passion for that. I have a passion for this. But the entertainment industry is thriving because, you know, they made it, you know? And esports is the same thing. There's going to be a point in life, and I wanted to get to that where it's my kids or my grandkids are going to get to the point where they're going to be like, I don't want to do that. I don't like doing, like, that's not for me. I want to be an engineer. I want to be a mechanic, you know, or I want to start my own business in taxes or whatever. You know, I want to be a dentist. It's like, yeah, we made it.
Eventually, it's gonna happen regardless of what we do.
Yep.
We're doing it now. We're gonna get older, man.
That's not changing.
Yeah, it's not changing. It's gonna happen. It's inevitable right now. It's the momentum that picked up.
Yeah.
We kept playing. We were dedicated. We still play. Fucking know this shit. Like, I'll fucking watch this shit. It's fun. Like, I enjoy it. So, you know, I have high hopes. Like, things like, if you look at corporate, all these big things, like, the thing is that after that, they don't really know what they're doing. Right? We know. We're in the community. We know the next thing that's going to happen. That's how we're going to utilize it. And you build from the start. And you grow that community. You grow what you want to inspire. Right? And that's why we always talk about our stories to everybody. Right? Why we started esports. There's history behind it. There's reasons behind it. And I feel like that, like, if you speak to most org owners, they're kind of young. Some people obviously are, you know. But in a sense is that they all have their story. What happened? Right time, right place, right people, right connections. Everyone has their time. Maybe it's not our time yet. Eventually it will be, right? So, I mean, that's the mindset for it. Right? We're to rebuild the culture. It's going to happen. The culture is going to be our lifestyle. So, some powerful stuff, man.
Can't wait till I'm 75 and I'm like, Majin, let's play some PUBG. Servers are dead. We can make our own servers.
The future is VR. Have you guys seen the movie Player Ready 1?
Yeah.
You like that movie?
It was good.
Yeah, I like the story behind it.
I like how, like, you know, like, they had all those workers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's like mod stuff.
Yeah. That's just gonna just be streamers and shit.
Yeah, there's a big, like, moral story behind it, I feel. I look super deep into, like, movies. Like, if you look at Star Wars, that's pretty deep, too. You gotta understand, like, what they're fighting for. Right? It's like, I feel like movies is good because it will give them a picture of influence, like what's happening. But sometimes our mind doesn't really see it. But it's alright. It's alright. Not too bad. But, I have high hopes, man. Shit, we're still doing it. We're chilling.
Oh, yeah, dude. I'm not stopping anytime soon.
We're chilling. We're just doing it. Make sure it's move. So you guys know, man. Make those moves.
Oh, yeah, dude. Every day, man.
No.
These guys are making the moves every day, dude.
It'll be different, man. Like, yeah, I see a lot of orgs fail. Yeah, you see that all the time. They die out all the time.
Yeah.
All the fucking time.
But it's like any business, dude. 80% of businesses fail. The only reason they fail, is because they stop.
Yeah.
Business is math. It's 1 + 1 = 2. If you don't put that other one, you're not gonna get to the 2. It's that simple. It's so simple that it feels complicated.
Yeah.
But it's not. You just keep going, man. It doesn't matter what happens. Don't worry about the world. Don't worry about what other people tell you. Don't worry about the opinion or whatever it is. Just do what you feel you have a passion for, man.
Yeah,
you know, it's like
we throw passion a lot. It means a lot.
It does.
Like, people don't understand. Like some people like don't work for the money. I'll be honest. If you look for money, you're not gonna get it, bro.
No, you're not.
You're not at all. People always try to go for the money.
Especially this generation, dude. Oh my god, it's like.
Hey, okay.
It's like, hi, how you doing? I just started work. I just finished college and stuff, and I spent 4 years and stuff. I got loans and everything, and I want to get paid $100,000. What? I understand that, bro, but you need to get the experience, man. No, I don't want that. Don't get a job. Dude, bro, that's not how it works, man. You gotta put the grind and you gotta sweat, man. You gotta shed tears and sweat blood, bro. That's how it works, man. You want to succeed, you need to sweat, dude.
You enjoy it, you know.
Yeah.
You enjoy it. You're willing to put that blood and sweat down.
Of course, I do it for my kids, so my kids don't have to do it. So my kids, because I want my kids, and it's funny because it's, you know, we put in the work, we put in the sacrifice, and we do it, but it's only for our passion. It's because this is what we have a passion for, and because we believe that this is going to happen, and it's already happened. Like, you know, even if we didn't have a passion for it, it still happened because there's just enough people. There's a humongous driving force to make it happen. And every individual counts, even us. And it, that's what was my thing of thought. But like, you know, I want to get to the point where it's like, you know, we've all sweated so much and we've shed so much blood for this that it gets to that point of like where my kids don't have to do it because they're living their life off of the sweat and the blood that I shed for them, so they can have the ability to do whatever it is that they want to do, you know, and leave that legacy there. Not only for my children, but for everybody, you know, anyone that wants to grow and become something, be it in Initial or Flashpoint or in any organization that's around for the future, that they have the ability to do that, where I mean, it's happening now. Shit, this is going to college for playing video games, dude. You know, you know how much people had to sweat to be able to pull that off.
I never thought about that. I'm like, what the fuck?
You know the amount of people that have to like, it's like everyone's drilling into. Look, man, this is gonna work. You have to do this. This is the opportunity. This is the vision. Like, you have to see this vision. Here's the graphs, dude. Like, this is just what's happening in the colleges and corporate, and they're like, yeah, I see it. Boom, there it is. And now kids are coming in like, yeah, it's always been there. It's like, no, it hasn't. It has not always been there,
bro. Goes back to basketball and like football. Right? We saw like the people over there in their age, they saw the growth. We just grew up into it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's how it is. It's an interesting thing. Like you're saying that, like it reminds me of my parents because they came here with like nothing, right? We are the only family that actually lives in the U.S. We have no other family here. So they came with like, they say it's like 50 cents and they have no place to live. So they lived at a restaurant and like worked there, right? And you just see their grind because they had my brother, he couldn't come, right? He lived in China for 5 years, right? Because he couldn't afford to fly over.
Yeah.
But the saying like they wanted to grind their life. So the kids, me and my brother, to have that, boys don't have to do this, right? In a sense, right? They go to that education. The thing is, like, what's different is, like, my parents are working people. Like, they're engineers. They work for the mayor now as project managers, right? So they're workers. They're really good at it. They can't stop working. That's the sense. I think it's like an addiction sometimes.
So you have a passion, man.
Yeah, they enjoy it. It doesn't matter what you do. If you enjoy what you do,
it's not a job.
It's not a job. So like that's their mentality. I want to do this. I want to, they didn't know any English. My mom went to school, like learn English and stuff like that, and she was like 35 during that time. Oh shit. Well, not really that old, but like, well, in a sense, it's like they started learning and growing, and they grind that restaurant job. They work 3-day shifts, and just see that hard work behind it. Like for me, I didn't want anything my parents gave me, right? Because I didn't earn it. Like you see, for me, like as a kid growing up, I see the sweat and blood they shed, right? I don't see my parents come home sometimes when I'm from school, right? They're not there.
Same.
So I gotta do my own thing. right? And for me, like, yeah, they're living good now, and they always want to give me shit, help me out and stuff. So like, it's just something that I feel that you gotta experience in life.
Yeah.
Right. I hope like most kids right now, generation change. I don't know what the fuck is going on. You know? I blame the media and the TV, right? Because like our influences come from the West Side and like people watching on TV, dramas, shit like that. I think that's what people are and shit like that.
Yeah.
It changes the culture, right? Sometimes it might be a funny thing, but they actually believe it. It changes the people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cartoons nowadays, I don't know what the fuck's going on in cartoons, but like,
I miss those last 2 minutes of real life education.
The biggest difference on it kind of is like I grew up with like the soul message. You got to do something that's worth a damn for you in your life. Like that's like the whole reason you're here. You got to do something that's worthwhile. And for me, it's like, okay, well, I want to work on something I love, and I want to be remembered for it. And like that's the reason I'm doing all this. Like that's the reason I'm like putting in about, I don't know, 20 hours of research every week in like shit that could work or not could not work. And that's what I see lacking with kids nowadays, like a lot. Like they just want to get rich and have the easy life and not do fuck all and just sit on their ass and enjoy money, you know. But it's not a fulfilling life. It's empty, you know.
It's change. It's supposed to change. I mean, it happens. So like,
yeah, it's just so sad to see
sucks.
because even if they've got money and they can spend on shit and well, yeah, they kind of enjoy themselves, but you can actually see it in their eyes, like they're not having the same satisfaction as like really accomplishing something you're actually proud of. Like,
yeah,
that's your thing, you know. That's something you created. It's something. It's, yeah, your legacy.
Who are these kids you're talking about?
Sorry?
Who are these kids you're talking about? Because I've never met anybody like that.
millennials.
For real? Like if you take kids that
They all, everybody who's like 17, 18-year-old that I've ever met,
mm-hmm.
because I'm an academic, right? So I meet mostly just academic kids. Anybody who's in engineering, they want to build stuff.
Yeah, like
Well, I mean, they're in engineering. They already put the grind.
Yeah.
Like they put in the work already.
So if you're talking about like the kids who are in school for like communications,
yes,
those
like
always
that.
existed. Those kids will always exist. That is the 10% of people who just want to get by to get by.
No, but I'll see like.
Well, he's talking,
I don't know about him.
He's talking about the one. He's talking about the kids that they don't create their own legacy. They live off of their parents' legacy or their grandparents' legacy, and they base their life off of that, and they don't do anything to build their own legacy.
They don't build on top of their
Exactly. Yeah, they don't build their own thing.
Now,
It could be with
it
be with their parents' legacy or their grandparents' legacy, but they don't build their own thing. They don't create their own. This is me.
Yeah, they're incredibly average.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's what being incredibly average is.
Or under average.
Yeah, and I've
No,
seen a lot of people
I
just
believe that
like
is
do
just
the 9 to
incredibly
5.
average.
I mean, you could look at it as like, for example, I think a perfect example is like pretty much like anything in history. Like you have Rome, you have Egypt, you have all other nations that existed back then. They didn't die because of the people that put in the work. They died. They crumbled because the ones that came after, who were their kids and stuff, didn't build on it. They were like, I have all the money, I have everything.
They did build on it. They built it on the.
If that was the case, those nations would still exist. But
they couldn't talk to each other fast enough. Rome literally fell because they couldn't communicate with the edges of their
No,
kingdom.
Rome fell because there were people in power were not adequate. They were weak. There were a lot of leaders in Rome that were horrendous. They did nothing.
Of course, they were bad. There's always bad leaders.
Exactly, and you think that doesn't have an effect on a society?
Yes, of course it does.
Exactly.
But there's a problem. But I personally, I think it was a bigger problem that in order for their edge provinces to actually get resources from like central government, it would take a week to just get the message there. By then, all the people that needed the resources have died.
Yeah, but Rome existed for 500 years. If that was the case,
That's a blink of an eye.
It is, but it's still a lot. I mean, look at America. How long have you been around?
It's 200 years.
Exactly. So
And
I mean,
we have now the ability, as we've been filming this conversation for an hour and a half at like, what is this, like probably 1080p.
I understand that, but the thing is that we've only been around for 200 years. Rome was around for 500 years, and they didn't have the internet.
I know. They didn't have the ability to communicate as well or as quickly as we have.
But they still lived for 500 years.
It doesn't matter.
Of course it does. How does that not matter? Of course it matters. It has a significance.
It doesn't.
They died because it was because of their infrastructure. The infrastructure that was good crumbled. That was why they died. It had nothing to do with their edges, because their edges existed for 500 years. In other words, they were doing a good job.
They were expanding. They were always the Roman Empire was always expanding until they crumbled.
Yeah, the same. But
they crumbled from the outside in.
What's the other one?
They were rotten from the inside out eventually, but they crumbled from the outside in.
But they crumbled. But they died because of the inside became trash. It wasn't because of the outside, because the outside are just nations that they took over. It had nothing to do with the origin or what Rome was built on. Same thing with Egypt. And Egypt didn't expand as much, and they still crumbled as well. Why? Because their infrastructure, the guys who were leaders, eventually, instead of building their own legacies, lived off of the legacies of others and did nothing to continue what worked, because they didn't care. England was the same thing. When they had their kings and queens and stuff like that, there were periods, and look at all the famine and stuff that happened during that time. That was because the leaders didn't care for the society. They didn't care for the people.
They also didn't understand how to treat their famine.
What are you talking about? England was a power. And their kings and queens and stuff, the ones that build it, like you have your origin of a society. There's the origin. There's the person who has the belief of this is something that we can build. This is something that we can make great, right? And like,
if you don't have when things go wrong, right? When you're building things, if you don't have the tools to fix it, if you don't even understand those tools possibly can exist, then you are just going to fail. There are no other options.
Yeah, that's true.
We now have more tools and better tools than any human has ever had, in my opinion. So the whole esports thing is an inevitability to me.
Of course.
We first had play fights, martial arts basically. That was play fighting conflicts. How to best each other, how to push other people forward. After we formalized society, then we have chess and all those like board games, where it was we no longer necessarily have to physically do this and do the individual besting each other. But what's the next step? Armies. So then stop playing army things, doing army things. Well, no, actually, we did the army thing, and then it was chess. So it was individuals, then it was like martial arts, and more or less martial arts, and then it was armies, and then we have chess. And now we're like sort of in the golden age or slash towards the end of the golden age of traditional sports, which is an analog for which is essentially an analog of the different types of ways where war was done. Americans, like the Western European thing was the line thing. That's football. Soccer is more or less like the Native American, more fluid way of where you just hit each other wherever you can. That's the way I see it. And now we'll have video games. Which is an actual evolution of how do you keep doing this whole conflict thing? How do you maintain that just natural desire to sort of inflict some sort of pain upon each other, except without doing it? The very top, it is no longer about whether or not you can hurt each other. It is about how you can minimize getting hurt. That is fundamentally what martial arts is you don't fight unless you absolutely have to, and you end it as quickly as you have to. Because if you make that fight last, you will get hurt more than you want to. That's what everyone like quick. That is all one what quick really is. How do I hit you more than you can hit me? How do I end this engagement in the quickest possible way? Because the longer this game runs, the less energy I have to punish all your mistakes, and less energy I have to not make mistakes. It's just an endurance. It's attrition. End of the day, everything's all the games we play. It's about attrition. There are little like nothing, HP, ammo, all of these things is just resources we can anything that's on timer, essentially anything that can be drained. That's just attrition. There are no games that do well, quote unquote do well, where you just explore. Nobody cares about Journey except like the hippies and stuff. The Journey is like the most beautiful like Flower and Journey. Nobody cares about those games. They're never gonna be esports because they're not competitive. You're not hurting each other. You're not like hurting each other. The whole like Article 13 thing, that's not old people not understanding the internet. That's old people trying to protect the businesses that actually give them money to help them stay in power.
No, like a lot of politicians truly don't understand what it is.
Oh, of course they don't. But that's not the
they
point.
being told by people that do understand what it is that it is an infringement. So they think like
but
you're
it's
doing
an
a good
infringement.
thing.
Okay, so here's the thing: it's an infringement on your individual ability individual ability to express yourself. It is, however, also an infringement on other people's creative IP, intellectual property. So which one do you protect? Both? You can't have both.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to change the entire definition of what IP is.
Yeah.
But before anyone has been able to do that, you have to figure out who to protect first, so that you can keep the gears running.
But this is not a new issue.
No, it isn't.
Like it's been along since the beginning of time. Since the beginning of making law, they had these kind of issues with music. Like if you make a new song with a tune that's similar to another song, like okay, is that copyright infringement? Because it's quite similar.
Wasn't a thing for a very long time.
Yeah, it's something. New. I'm pretty much certain they made that shit up just so they get more money out of it.
Yeah,
and it's making no sense.
We're at the point where like when our kids are the ones who are like, I don't want to do esports stuff because it's boring. It's essentially like it's analogous to like our generation don't want to do football because like you know that it hurts you or something, like emotionally hurts, scars you or whatever like thing they decided
No, that's not true because there's a lot of people that still play soccer. There's a lot of people that still are.
Yeah, no, but you know what I mean though, right? Like there are people who don't want to do the sport, the popular sport.
Eventually, it's gonna transition into something else.
Like they don't want to do like the popular sport thingy because whatever. Like at that point, I don't think currency is still a thing.
It won't be. I mean,
because like
it's like a law of nature right now. Like people say things happen for a reason, right? Like I say, history repeats itself. Right, yeah. But in a different form. You're the transition because
it
evolves.
So like the IP thing, the only reason why it's a problem is because currencies exist.
Mm-hmm.
So either you completely redefine what IP is, or you get rid of currency. Those are your choices.
Yeah, the most important thing in order to get that done is that we have developed AI.
No, we haven't. I'm working with AI.
Yeah,
there's no such thing as
we
AI.
We need that in order to...
It doesn't do anything.
Nah, but we need full-fledged AI in order to reduce manual labor to a minimum so we can actually get rid of currency. Else you'll need some sort of currency.
No, you don't.
Not necessarily, no.
You don't need machines that are able
you
to
need
think
some way to reward work with compensation.
No, we shouldn't do that.
No,
it's gonna end
don't.
the world.
Currency. That is literally currency.
Because that's the ecosystem of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's connected. If you look in stocks, all right, you gotta understand every single particle is connected. Then you gotta get a bigger picture of it, right? Like why is it there, right? Is the system in place?
Post-scarcity isn't you work for credit. Post-scarcity is you, not post-scarcity. Post-credit, currency is you work because you want to, and then you just take from society what other people have produced. They need.
But in order to do that, you will need to make like a massive culture change around like the freaking world in order to do that.
Well, that's what's happening now.
It's not
currency
happening.
Currency has been virtual for decades, and eventually it's just gonna stop meaning anything.
Well,
That's why we're
it's
so
all fiat
prosperous,
currency,
right?
so-
We don't suffer anymore. We have
Yeah.
unlimited amounts of resources because, like for before, like survival was food, right? But it transitioned to, GMOs and shit like that happening. But
GMOs has always been a thing.
didn't they start like in the 1990s?
No.
When they started rice and flour during that time, or
GMOs
was it?
has always been a thing. Everything you eat,
From
whether or not
seeds.
it's like whether or not it's natural or not, it's GMO. Genetically modified organisms is
Mm.
literally everything we have ever eaten.
Well, by definition, genetically modified, it's like because everything evolves. Even all the natural things change eventually. So it's like that's
Not
a
really.
that's a
It's
genetically
hand
modified.
bred. The only difference between modern GMOs and traditional traditional natural foods
how nature
is that
is.
we're able to control what the mutations are. That's the only difference.
Yeah.
We can control what the mutations are within one generation. So if you need, for example, to feed an entire African country and their climate can only grow potatoes, you can make a potato in 10 years instead of 10,000 generations of potatoes. You can make generation in 10 years. In one generation of potatoes, you can make a potato that can feed an entire country, sub-Saharan African country, and that potato will produce all the nutrients they need. They don't even have to eat like sheep and shit. You literally just sit around and eat potatoes. Tastes like shit. Doesn't matter. You live. Would you rather live or starve? That's what like that thing is.
Are you talking about like the law of nature as it is, like how the system is in place because of trying to protect like currency and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's all it
articles
is.
It makes sense.
It's
So
just,
weird.
but it's
all
going
it is,
away.
Yeah, well, because like a lot of the it's what I agree with what he's saying. Like there's like a lot of those like the reason why like Article 13 and like a whole bunch of the reason why they fight to do these things is because they're protecting what they created, and instead of evolving what they created, they want to keep it the same. And so they want to prevent other people from evolving because to them it's like the fear of like I'm losing everything that I worked for.
Yeah,
It's like no, like dude, just you can grab somebody who's younger than you who has a good idea and run with it and see how what you created evolved into something new.
Like the whole share economy thing, like the fact that we're renting out this house. This is a new thing that no one has, that no one after like currency became a thing, I think really thought of. Once ownership became a thing, like how do you realistically then let someone else stay in your home that you own for some amount of time for exchange of essentially imaginary magic dust?
Yeah. And then, like,
Until essentially recently when the economy is very lopsided, where people literally cannot afford to rent hotels anymore. Like those kids who are wanting just some money so they can who are money grabbing millennials, they work harder and longer than almost every generation before, and they're getting paid less. If you adjust for inflation, Harvard used to charge $40,000. Essentially, I think it was $3,000-4,000 in 1975 for tuition. Adjusted for inflation, that's $30,000 nowadays.
Shit.
You know how much Harvard charges now? $80,000 a semester.
God damn, dude.
It's that way across the entire United States. It's that way across most of the developed world.
Yeah, that's true though.
They have
also,
the people who have built the modern world have also figured out how to manipulate all the systems we built or other people have built so that they get a lot of the money the currency.
For us, it was really weird because in 2000 we had the introduction of the euro.
Yeah.
And during